Welcome, everybody. We are so glad that you could join us today. And we would love for the folks from schools that are interested in learning more about designing the future to introduce themselves, just indicate who you are and your position in the school that you represent, just so other folks can know who's on the call. Colleen, would you like to start?
Yes, with two Colleens, but I'll take this. Colleen Kent, principal at Immaculate Conception School here in Columbus.
Angie, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Angie Eisenacher, principal at St. Christopher School, and our we just ordered Designing the Future, and it got approved. Yay! So we should be getting those materials rather quickly, I hope.
Very good. We're excited
Right.
about it.
Yeah.
Casey?
He's muted. I don't know.
Uh,
Well, I'm here now. I'm Colleen Gomez, and I am currently in Jacksonville, Florida, and the Diocese of St. Augustine, and I teach in the seventh grade religion, and I am the CRE for the parish, and I teach art now.
Wonderful. It's great to have you with us
Yeah,
again. It's been a long
reconnect.
time. Jessica?
Hi, I'm Jessica Du Bois. I'm the principal at Tuscarawas Central Catholic Elementary School.
Terrific. And Casey, you want to jump in now?
Yes, I'm Casey Leonard. I'm the middle school teacher at St. Cecilia and seventh grade religion. And I'm almost home. So
Please be careful.
Yes, terrific.
Yeah.
Are we missing anybody that I can't see on our screen currently? If you are from a school and haven't introduced yourself yet, please go ahead.
I think that's it.
Okay, so we did have other folks certainly who have expressed interest in the curriculum, but this wasn't a good date for them, and so we're going to make sure that the video from today is widely distributed. But it's very nice to have some warm bodies in the Zoom room to experience this with us. I'm Ellen Erlanger. I'm from Partnerships for Authentic Learning and Leadership, the nonprofit organization that is giving birth to this product. And my colleague here is
Kathy Meyer. And just so you know, we've both been teachers and school administrators and are doing this work in our retirement through the nonprofit. And we've been in Kitty Quinn's catechism class now for about 40 years. Is that right, Kitty?
Close, close.
But we've been lucky enough, and thanks in great part to Kitty, to have worked with Catholic schools for probably the last 25, 30 years, and certainly has been one of the highlights of our careers.
Kitty and Vicky. Go ahead and just check in and tell folks who you are and what you've done.
I'm Kitty Quinn, the retired assistant superintendent for the diocese. I think I know everybody on the screen, and I'm delighted that you're there. Somewhere along the line, we've talked about service and service learning, so it's good to touch base with all of you.
And I'm Vicki Petrella, and I began working with Kathy and Ellen. And of course, I worked with Kitty for a long time, but back in 2005 and six, when we kind of launched the service learning program at St. James. And Casey and Colleen Gomez were very much a part of those programs during the time. And Colleen Gomez was really kind of our leader as we moved through the program.
All right. We are thrilled to have collaborated with you on this and look forward to other things that we'll probably dream up together in the years ahead. If we go to the next slide, Kathy and I also have two colleagues in the organization that we want you to be aware of. On your left is Kristen Bordage, who works with us in professional learning, and on your right is Emmy Beeson, our executive director. You can tell we don't take ourselves terribly seriously, but we do take this work very seriously. It is a labor of love, and I think what we want you to know about our organization is that despite the fact that we're talking today about a publication, we're not mainly a publishing firm. We are mainly a group of people who work shoulder to shoulder with teachers and leaders in schools to help them realize their vision of making learning more engaging. And so we do a lot of instructional coaching, visioning, but lots of things that go beyond what we're going to talk about today. The errors.
Nothing seems to be working quite right today. I'm so sorry. There.
There we go. Everybody knows that we're being recorded, so I think that's not an issue. We've got folks muted for the time being. That's not because we don't want to hear what you have to say, but because we don't want people's background noises to interrupt and cause distractions. So if you have questions as we're doing the presentation, if you go ahead and use the chat, and then at the end, we certainly will do some Q&A. The structure of the webinar is that we are going to talk about this curriculum, about designing the future in terms of what, why, and how. And as we get to how, we're particularly going to focus on the Catholic supplement that Kitty and Vicki have developed for us. So what is this program anyway? We did not really intend to be publishers, as I mentioned, but it has struck us in our many, many decades of work in the field that middle school kids are at a unique turning point in their development. And they need support and exciting things to do in so many different ways. They're accustomed, I think, to being treated not as resources, but sort of as folks that are expected to be compliant and just do school in the usual way. And I know that many of you have experienced that it doesn't work that way with students in general, but especially at the middle school level, at this turning point, there's a real need for things that are very authentic and real world and relevant to the developmental needs of kids at this age. At the same time that we have this realization about middle school kids, we have all been immersed in the magic of service learning for a very long time. And so it has always struck us that if we can provide some additional tools for schools, particularly at the middle level, and get more folks involved in service learning in the best possible way, that some magic will happen for teachers and for kids. And so our devotion to service learning, our love of middle level kids, our determination to make learning engaging, all of those things entered into the birth of the curriculum, along with the real need to support kids in their career exploration process. And our approach to that is really career exploration from the inside out. And by that, we mean that what should drive a young person's search for possible options for the future is a deep sense of who they are inside. And in the context of Catholic education, looking at that in a spiritual sense as well, who they are as imbued by God. And so this is different. This is a contrast to a lot of conventional things that are out there for career exploration, because many of those things suggest that the answers that a person is looking for are on the outside somewhere, in an interest inventory, or as a shiny object, a particular occupation. And we take a much more internal view. And so what you're going to see in designing the future is a deep emphasis on self-awareness, a real opportunity for kids to take the lead in getting involved in the community, and then some authentic opportunities for them to look at what the future might hold in relation to their own interests. What you're going to see next is an animated film that we had developed by our marketing firm in collaboration with us to articulate for kids early in the process what makes this program different and what they're about to embark on as a journey.
Today, we begin a journey of exploration and action. This journey will take us into a world of endless possibilities and exciting challenges. A journey full of inspiration. A journey where we use our voice, gifts, and knowledge to make a positive difference in our community and world. A journey filled with discovery, engagement, collaboration, and empowerment. Our journey will help us envision our next steps, take action that matters for ourselves and others, and begin to realize our true potential. Together, we will discover a world where every turn is an opportunity. An opportunity to show up and have real impact. Our journey will take us beyond our classroom and our school. It will help us learn a lot about ourselves and challenge us to explore possible options for the future. Today, we stop being just students. Today, we begin our journey as change makers. Young people designing the future for ourselves, our school, our community, and the world.
So you can see the emphasis is on real experience. The emphasis is on the potential of young people to have real impact and to be change makers, and to not be in a situation where education feels like delayed gratification, where they don't get the message that they should learn this or do that so they can be real people someday. We want them to really immerse themselves in important roles right here, right now. And part of what makes, I think, the curriculum valuable is that it so directly matches what research tells us early adolescents need. This is taken from a lot of work in developmental psychology, and it's really clear that young people at this age level, being at the turning point we described at the beginning, are looking for all the things in those bullet points. And I think you'll find if you decide to explore the curriculum further, you will find activities and experiences that are designed to address all of those things. And at the center of the experiential part of this curriculum, there is a tremendous emphasis on service learning, and that is very intentional. And we absolutely applaud the commitment that Catholic schools have always had to service. The emphasis here is to take that commitment, make sure it is surrounded by the kind of preparation and research and learning and collaboration and reflection that maximize the learning potential in that service. And again, research on service learning is so powerful in telling us that when it is done right, it affects all of the areas that are listed here. And that indeed, if teachers fear that if they do service learning, that they're setting academic success on the sideline, they're not. This will enhance the academic motivation and achievement. There are all kinds of personal gains. There are gains in career awareness and commitment to the community. And just in case it's of interest to any principal or teacher, there are actually fewer discipline problems. There are actually fewer risk behaviors. All of this has really been thoroughly researched, and it's hard to understand in some ways why folks haven't listened to the research more closely and taken the next step to make a full commitment to this. But we believe the curriculum will make that commitment easier. There are many things that come with the curriculum if you decide to make this a part of the school program. As we have said again and again, a school should only enter into this experience if there is a willingness and a commitment to make sure that the kids have a lot of authentic opportunities to interact with people in the community, to have experiences that make real world connections. That is essential. But the whole experience is guided by a student journal that emphasizes a great deal of reflection and embeds literacy skills. And we made a very conscious decision to not do this program online, to not have this be one more thing that kids were doing on their devices. We absolutely wanted every student to own their own process and to work through the activities and the reflection opportunities in the journal on their own. Alongside the journal and the video that you saw a few minutes ago, there is a teaching guide that is written like a very comprehensive and we hope user-proof cookbook. We try to be very, very clear about how the teacher can get the most out of every activity. And as if it weren't enough to have that teaching guide, we also have a curriculum resource hub that you acquire that has not only the videos and enrichment activities that students need, but also has a set of instructional videos for the teacher that accompany every unit in the book. So that if I'm the teacher, yeah, I've got my teaching guide, but also when I'm ready for Unit 3, I can pull out the video from the resource hub that goes with Unit 3 and get all of my instructions reinforced on there in advance. And the decision to include on the resource hub a special supplement for Catholic schools was very deliberate on our part. But because we have not yet completed Kitty's catechism requirements, we needed to turn to people who are qualified to do that Catholic supplement. You know, I'm still a work in progress as a little Jewish girl, and I have great intent and some curriculum development skills, but we needed our friends here for the faith development piece of this. The program also has a pacing guide that helps the teacher figure out how to implement, whether they are using the course in a 6-week, 9-week, or semester-long framework, whatever they're doing. We believe it will work. I think.
Then the
Yeah.
7 units.
Yeah. We're not going to go over what the 7 units are about, but just so that you understand that the flow is very intentional. We look first and foremost at the beginning at what does it mean for a person to create a legacy? And what are the things that go into leaving a positive impression and mark on the world? And we look at people who have done that. And then begin to work with the kids to take apart the elements of who they are, their gifts, their fascinations, their character traits, and those things come together in what we call their internal compass. And that gets a very close look before they team up with other individuals in the class who also have internal compasses full of strengths. And they put their strengths together in order to meet the needs of the community and the world through service learning. The career part comes last on purpose because we believe kids can do a more thoughtful job of considering future possibilities after they have learned that they can have a real impact right here, right now, that they are stronger for having done that and better positioned then to look to the future. So we will switch it here to Kitty and Vicky to talk about why they became a part of it and the special focus that they have added to make this particularly relevant for Catholic schools.
You're muted, Kitty.
Thanks, guys. Like Kathy and Ellen said, we've been a part of it for a long time, well over 25 years. I can remember when we were doing week-long summer in-service work for schools out at one of the retreat centers. And interestingly enough, this is an ideal match for what we do in the context of Catholic schools. It's almost like I would take their heading, designing the future, semicolon, building the kingdom of God. We decided that we could at least use the language and help support Catholic schools in that process. People who have worked with me on this and been a part of the Diocese of Columbus have heard for well over umpteen years, how do we take the work we do, service projects that we do at an unbelievable level, bringing in the clothes, the canned goods, the mittens, the hats, the school supplies. How do we move it from that and connect it to service learning so that those projects don't sit in isolation because they're not designed to get you out of your uniform or pay $1 and get out of your uniform and donate to the canned goods. It's designed to connect the dots for the kids. The work that Kathy and Ellen have done and what Vicki and I hope that we contributed to in a meaningful way embraces that whole concept of how do we help our students build or begin to find their purpose, an understanding of why God put them here in this place at this time with these opportunities. The second piece is, and I'm an old middle school teacher, old being the key word there. There is nobody with more passion than a middle school kid. Now, it's often misaligned and kind of misunderstood every now and then, but they are so passionate about what they do and what they want to do. Now's the time to capitalize on it. And again, connect another dot for them. Your passion for us in our faith-based concept can become your vocation. How do you take what you believe so firmly in, find purpose in what you're doing, and use it to build the kingdom of God or make a difference in the world? And that's without hesitation one of the key reasons that we signed on to doing this. And you know that I have done this in the Diocese of Columbus for umpteen years. The challenge is always, how do you go beyond just a service project to bringing in the faith and understanding how it's all put together with purpose and design, and that we begin to take our place in the community. If you want to go to the next one, Kathy. There are a bajillion reasons why this program works when someone really grabs hold of it, because the program itself embraces all of the components. You always associate me within our diocese with the accrediting process. And one of those pieces or one of those elements is the Catholic identity goal. And quite often for our schools, that Catholic identity goal has to do with real life application of our faith. How do I put my faith into action? Well, that Catholic identity is embraced in the context of this. God asks us to know ourselves, to find our gifts, to discover and to do for others. This kind of opportunity for the kids allows them to discover all those pieces, their skills, their ability to understand what they're learning and how it applies to what they can do to make the world better. No academic content should sit in isolation, just math or just literature or just science. But how do those come together with a moral thread through them for you to grab onto to become someone who makes this world better? That's our goal in life, to become saints. And to become a saint means to do God's work, and to do God's work means to build the kingdom of God here and now. And how do we do that? Within the context of our societies, whether that's our classroom society, our school society, or our greater community society. So it's about challenging the kids to take hold of all of those skills. Because if there's anything that we can leave them with, it's certainly knowledge is not stagnant in a book anymore. It's beyond us as soon as they go into the next grade. So how do we have them grasp the skills to master those elements to build? The next one, Kathy. The other important piece for us that we were asked to be a part of was the building of the Curriculum Resource Hub. Vicki and I have given it our best shot. We know how difficult it is for time management for teachers to try and put all of these pieces together when it's not a natural impact for them to connect literature and math and science and social studies. And how do we put that together? And now let's cover it in a ribbon of faith. The hub is designed to help translate the language, so it's put into our faith-based language, and it's also meant to translate into characters within the context of our faith that kids can relate to, and also provide opportunities of some actual hands-on work that teachers can take and grab and use right away, ready to run and ready to go. Vicki?
It really adds another layer of connections between their God-given talents and their passions, academic learning, hands-on activities. And we want the kids to understand, as members of the body of Christ, we all bring different talents, and those talents need to be, respected. And if we work together, we can have positive outcomes that kind of reflect our call to serve. We also want, if we want to engage citizens, we have to teach kids how to collaborate, because that's really what democracy is about. It's about collaboration. Okay. It's about compromise. And this provides a vehicle for them to appreciate each other and collaborate. And it also, if your teachers want it to be, it can be a collaboration piece for them too. And when we use the program at St. James, all of the middle school teachers worked together, and we were able to model that collaboration and that mutual respect. And it had, it had different forms, because what else this can do is it can be a vehicle for curriculum integration. So Colleen was doing things in her classroom. Casey and I did several things together. The art teacher, we would say to the art teacher, plug in when you can. And sometimes the art teachers would be working mid-project. Sometimes they'd be working at the end. Our projects were a year long, so everybody hooked on when they best saw fit. And so it was a wonderful way of kind of having autonomy, but still working in community. And the kids could see that we were doing that across the subject areas. So for us, we were pretty good at webbing and weaving, and it kind of came naturally to us how to put this in the program. So do you want to go to the next slide? Okay. All right. So for me as a teacher, I always want to know, what does this look like? Okay. So if you just take a look at this slide, we took the questions and just we reworded them to have a faith focus. So for instance, if you look at that second set, what does legacy mean in light of the faith and the Catholic worldview? And we designed 4 units, and there are lessons that match the first 4 units of the regular program. And then so those match, and we have lessons and resources. Let's go to the next slide so we can look at the resource page. Okay.
So this is really just the cover. It will be a digital copy of the supplement that'll be on the Curriculum Resource Hub. And then Colleen and Kitty are going to give some examples here of what you would find in that supplement.
Okay. So we covered things like Catholic social teaching, Catholic worldview, charism, lives of the saints, catechism, scripture. And this resource page, this may be my favorite page because everything is here. You'll find these in the units, but you can have a really nice overview of the videos, the books we suggested, the stories, the handouts, and so you have all those links there. If you look, so you see the first 4, and if you look to Unit 6, we didn't provide lessons for Unit 6, but we provided examples. Our goal was to kind of do the scut work for the teachers, save you some time in the research. And the idea, so let's look at the next page, just to give you an example of a couple of the lessons. So this is unit 3. So this is an example. This is a complete, well, it's not the complete lesson plan, but it's the first page of the lesson plan. And it talks about integrating the Catholic worldview. You see your scriptures, quotes are there. You've got some teachings at the bottom. And then there will be PDFs and worksheets and other suggestions in that lesson. Let's look at the next one. Okay.
And Colleen, if I could mention, so in the regular teaching guide that you get as a part of the program, it follows the same pattern.
Right.
And so every unit, there's guiding questions, and then kind of the big picture of what you're doing, and then suggestions for moving through that. So then you'll see some corresponding things that you can integrate the faith part of this, connected to the Catholic faith.
And I don't think there's a presumption, if I'm right about this, Kitty and Vicky, the resources and the suggested lessons and adaptations in language are for the teacher's consideration, but not considered to be mandated. They're
correct. That's where I was headed. So this is an example of, this is unit 3. And then do we have another worksheet? Let's just show them the worksheet and then I'll talk about that. Okay, so this is an example of a worksheet. And you see there's a catechism reference there. Now, the idea for us is that this was a starter kit. All right. And so you can look at my advice would be to kind of look it all over and say, okay, what's going to work for me? You know, you can use it as is. You can move things around. You can use things just from the resource page. The goal was to do the scout work for you so that you had enough to work with, and then you could choose how you wanted to use this. And the other idea is that we really want this to be kind of a dynamic hub. So as you use the materials, there are things that you could add, suggestions you could make so that we could change it. So while it is aligned, it is not mandated that that is how you do it. You make the choices as you'd want to develop this faith piece of the program. And so, you know, and there should be enough there for you to pick and choose if you would decide that you didn't want to do it sequentially. It's important to do the regular piece of the program sequentially. Our pieces are there to supplement, to help, to guide, and to give you some suggestions. Okay, can we go to the next one? Oh, this is just the last one. So this is an example of a bio that Kitty put together on Mother Teresa. So all of those kinds of things are included for you to use. Okay. All right, you can go to the next slide. This program, we always felt at St. James that it just lent itself to faith integration. So our goal was just to provide you with the materials and ideas to make that integration more fluid, just to make your life a little bit easier. We also think that you're going to find that the lessons and the suggestions align nicely with your religion standards for 6, 7, and 8, because we did look at those to kind of make sure things matched up nicely. Hopefully you're going to have the resources you need to attach the content to your students' gifts and talents. And, and really, again, stress how important faith is to service. And Casey and Colleen are on this webinar, and we were all so involved in this. And I can honestly say, as an educator, we use the elements of this program for the last 10 years I was at St. James. And I don't think there's anything I've ever done that has impacted my teaching as much as these service learning projects. And I can say that, I think my students would agree. I think my partner teachers would agree. We had some pretty impressive experiences and outcomes, but the important thing is the students felt empowered. They felt like they, really had made changes, had done things, showed leadership. And I think that was so important. And I think, that hopefully everything we do shows how we put our faith in action. And, this spiritual call to love our neighbor and be the heart of Jesus, for us, it was the work of the project that helped us realize that. So for us, the journey was as important as the result. You know, as I look back at all those experiences, I think also that we really developed a kinder, gentler middle school. You know, what do we tell our middle schoolers? We want you to lead. Well, give them something to lead. And, you know, this is something, if they're choosing the project, they're, you know, appealing to their passions. This is something for them to lead. They can get involved. We had the kids involved with community members. And they felt, you know, many of our kids, you know, didn't have many resources, but with the projects, that, you know, they felt very empowered. And I think that if we can help kids know that if you are in a Christ-filled community and you are collaborative and you are respectful and you appreciate other people's gifts and talents, you know, our kids saw it. You can really be an agent of change. And as Kitty said, build a kingdom builder. And, you know, in this slide, it talks about student reflection, because that's a really important part of the whole program, you know, reflecting. And I just kind of want to end this by just, for my part, just saying that about the first or second year, I don't remember, we were doing the programs, we were, you know, we were having the students reflect. And one of our young ladies said, and I just thought this was so powerful. She said, at St. James, we believe we can change the world. We just have to do it one village at a time. And that kind of became our mantra, you know, letting the kids really believe they can change things. And it may be in a smaller way, but we just, you know, I am just a huge, this for me changed everything, and it was transformative. And now that, you know, it was a gift that we were able to put this faith piece, you know, attach it to this. So thank you, Kathy and Ellen, for that.
Oh,
Well,
thank
it's
you.
a wonderful addition. I want to make a couple clarifying comments. You know, when Vicki talks about being immersed in the program for a long time, that reference really has to do with being immersed in a commitment to service learning and being involved in that work alongside our organization. The decision to publish Designing the Future as a curriculum is brand new, and our reason for wanting to do that is to make service learning more accessible and meaningful for people that don't embrace it as naturally. You know, when you hear people like Vicki talk, you can tell that that's work of her heart. And for some folks, having a stronger support mechanism to have them make the transition into that work is really important. And if you can envision for a second what would happen if many Catholic schools adopted the program, were using the curriculum, and could talk back and forth about, gosh, how did your Imagine a World poem, when the kids were creating a vision of the world that they would like to help shape? How did that go for you? What happened when they were identifying agencies that were doing important work? What happened when they imagine themselves as future change makers? What did their change maker portraits look like? What pieces of scripture and faith do they attach to their experiences? Just to give folks a common base for talking about their experiences with this and really building it as more of an intentional movement is something that we really hope for, and hope that you might want to be part of.
So I'm mindful of the time, and I'm going to just finish this PowerPoint quickly and then answer any questions that you might have. But as Ellen said, you know, we're not publishers, and our work, the bulk of our work, is to work with K through 12 teachers, both in public school and Catholic school, to teach more authentically, and especially around service learning. So we would never want a school to adopt Designing the Future and then every other teacher say, well, I don't need to do service learning. It's not easy to do that, or to connect there's subject areas to your faith as well. You're raising Catholic citizens. That's part of my catechism with Kitty. Um, and um, and so we really designed this so there was an intentional, specific way to almost be a capstone because kids can only answer. We talked about this being the beginning of it to really help kids focus on their talents, their gifts, their interests, their passions. But they only know what those are because of what's happened to them in years previous to the time of asking them. And so we wanted this to be kind of that capstone experience that captured what's happened with them in school and in their community, in their home, up until that point, and then to make meaning of it. And so we feel really good about this, and we're excited for the Catholic schools and public schools that are using it as well. So there is a price, and I'm not gonna talk a lot about this, but I'm going to send the video and this PowerPoint and our website information so that if you have questions, that you can do that, take a look at that. But the program consists of each student having their own journal, student journal, the teaching guide per teacher, and whether it's one teacher, sometimes we're having a classroom teacher and a religion teacher co-teaching the course. The curriculum resource hub is there'll be so many resources on there that of value for people, and then of course shipping. There's a quote on here on this slide that I hope you'll take some time to read when we send it, and also a good friend Russ Quaglia with the Quaglia Institute for Student Voice and Aspirations. And this has so much to do with finding your purpose. And I love to hear Kitty talk about that from a faith perspective. We see it in public schools. We just can't say what the origin is. But we experience this all the time when we see kids, whether they're in public schools or Catholic schools, engaged in this kind of work. It is a spiritual experience. And it's been a real pleasure to really, walk this journey with all of you and learn how to name the what it is. So we'll just open it up now to any questions that you have. I'm going to stop sharing the screen so we can see you. Do you have any questions about this? You also have 24/7 access to us if you have any questions, but I think you'll find with what's on the resource hub with the training videos and the teaching guide, I don't know that you'll ever find a curriculum that has more support for implementation than this does.
Angie, have you already started it? You said you got it approved.
Yeah, we got it approved, and Kathy and Ellen were out here on a coaching day and worked with our new teacher that's going to be implementing it. So he's a brand new, this is the first time being in a classroom. So I appreciate how user friendly, and I know he does. So as soon as we get our materials, we'll be up and ready to roll. So I'm super excited. I apologize. I had a first grader having a meltdown in here. So I missed it, but I'm looking forward to hearing the recording. I was catching a little bit in between, but yeah.
Well, Vicki and I are hoping that we can tap back into you guys once you've started to use it to find out what else could be there that would help the teachers. So as you're having conversations, send us a note, drop us a line, this, if you could tweak this, add this, those will be important. And we're happy to take that on and add it to it and build it even more.
Yeah.
People we haven't thought of, different generational things could be changed too. So
I think
Any other questions too? If there were any other questions, because we've done it for so long, and not that, you know what I mean? There might be other questions that we could even answer if, so you can feel free to call us at any time. That's the point that I'm making.
I do get quite a kickoff when I was we were looking at this again and came to Mother Teresa, and of course that's part of the legacy and role model and so forth in the teaching guide that the public schools, well, everybody gets, but LeBron James is the role. So you got Mother Teresa and but and a number of young change makers and role models.
That's what makes it so cool, though. The kids
Yeah.
can relate to that, I mean, that's just amazing that you can bridge that.
they
the
both
two
knew how to
together.
pivot, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Well, on that note, it's 5:01 and we appreciate the time. Of course, if you have any questions or you want to put anything in the chat, but we'll be in contact with the recording
Perfect.
after I edit out all the time I couldn't get things working, and follow up with information.
Sounds great.
Wonderful.
Thank you guys.
Wonderful.
If you liked what you heard, or at least it piqued your curiosity, we hope you'll share with colleagues who might also have an interest.
Yeah.
Because we'd really love to have a network of schools that were excited about it together.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
I think St. Mary's in German Village is doing it too.
Yes,
So there's
they
another
are.
one to talk to find out what they're doing. I think Gina and Nikki are doing it there.
So they just
Well,
putting it,
they-
is that like part of their accreditation plan, or is that just something they're just bringing in? And again, just middle school, or is it K? I see Jessica has a question about K to, younger kids. I mean,
Yeah.
could you like that to go,
So we work with a number of schools when they're going through their accreditation program. Angie and St. Christopher is one of the schools we've been working with for years now. And so we're working with St. Mary's on the whole staff on integrating, service learning is almost always the Catholic identity goal, but we also try to show how it can help support their academic goal. So there's professional learning that we're doing with them on that, but they're designing the future with their 8th graders.
Nice.
And so it certainly supports their accreditation program, but that wasn't really why it's just
it can clearly be in isolation.
Yeah.
Like Andrew, you're just using it for one of your teachers.
For one of our grades. So we've, like they said, they came in at the very year one of our accreditation. And I mean, did a whole group, starting back with our mission and vision, and then, really teaching all of our students about differentiating instruction and how that, it's so much more than just turning a page in a book, and it's just springboarded. And so this curriculum just kind of was like the bonus to it. Like, yes, let's do this. I mean, this is what we've been talking about for the last 4 years, so to have something like this, we're going to use it next year with just 8th grade. So we're going to start it with 8th grade this year, and it'll just keep kind of, because 6th grade goes to Damascus. We were trying to keep it, something big for each grade kind of thing. So we felt like that's probably going to be our best bet right there. So
I'm really glad you asked the question though, Colleen, because I would never have wanted anybody viewing the video to think that we are only advocating a strong emphasis on service learning at middle school. It's
Yeah.
just that, we chose a place where we thought having a curriculum piece could make a difference, particularly given the emphasis in Ohio and other states on more career awareness at the middle school. And it is our belief that you shouldn't do these experiential things in that isolation from each other as if they have no connection, because you can learn so much that is relevant to your career search through the service learning that occurs, because it's so authentic and because you feel yourself undertaking significant roles. And so that really inspired us to make sure that at least at the middle school level, that those things are more closely integrated.
Nice.
So I
Yeah,
would,
I didn't even think about the whole career path until, how it was connected to that. But, I mean, even our new math curriculum, every unit starts out with how that math lesson or that chapter relates to a career, So, I mean, they're all crossing all kinds of categories and content areas. So, it seems like just a great natural fit. We were thrilled when we heard about it and excited to get it started.
And I think the other part of it is it's too often kids don't perceive that what they're doing in school fits their faith into their life and a vocation.
Right.
And so being able to carry that thread through for them of whatever job vocation you head into, the morality and the ethics with which you operate is one of the key components. And we don't talk about that very often. And that this lends itself to that. Catholics have nothing against getting rich at all. But it is.
What are we doing in these professions then? Seriously.
Yeah. But it is what you do with that money that makes the difference.
Yeah.
So what are you doing to give back, and what are you doing to build the kingdom if you've been given all these gifts and talents, and one of those gifts is the ability to influence financially, how are you giving it back? So them beginning to find that ability to do it as eighth graders, as leaders, as middle school leaders, sixth, seventh, and eighth grade, that's the place to do it. You give it back. And you don't do it because you get it. You don't do it because you get a reward. You do it because you're called to do it by God.
Also, the question about the younger grades, I think that wasn't that part of the question, Colleen, that you were talking
Jessica
about?
wanted to know if it would
Jessica,
fit
it's in
in.
the chat. She put
Well,
that in the chat.
the way we designed the projects were so broad that teachers at the younger grades could hook on to certain things. So you had your middle schoolers as your leaders, designing the project, choosing the project, and we did it for so long that as each grade moved up, they chose the project. So, it became a natural progression. But everything in the building was worked around the project. So the project was always front and center. The theme was attached to the project. Everything we did, reflected the project. And so the kids were invested kind of by default, you know what I mean? And so there were certain things that at each grade level they could choose to do. So I just want to make sure that was clear.
and certainly our vision of our work is that, as soon as we can reach them at kindergarten, we want teachers doing service learning and more authentic instructions, because those are the experiences kids, I like to think of it, they carry around this bucket. And so I have this experience in kindergarten or first grade, and what I learned about myself is, my grade card used to say talks too much. Well, if they had let me think about it as a skill, now what I do is talk all the time. I mean, that's part of my vocation and how I approach my work. So but Ellen's a writer. She probably wrote before she could spell. And so every kid has that experience and finds out something different about themselves. And if all you do is lecture and give kids a test, they aren't finding out anything about themselves.
Yeah.
But we have to sort of be intentional about having kids reflect on what's the meaning, what did I learn about myself, my gifts and talents, because I can give money, as we're not against people being wealthy, and we all wish we were among those. But your kids are gaining academic and other skills that they can share with others to make the world better. And so just to answer your first question though. We initially designed it to be 6 through 8, but if I think,
6 or 7 or 8.
yes, 6 or 7
Yeah.
or 8.
Mhm.
But we have a 9th grade using it up in northeastern Ohio. And certainly a school could look at if 5th grade, if they think their 5th graders can do it, then it's up. We're not going to say no. But we designed it really as a middle school program.
Mm.
So,
Just hearing a little bit of what I heard though, when I was dealing with that, I mean, I instantly thought, yeah, okay, we're going to do it with our 8th grade, but boy, there's lots of ways that our 8th grade can go and teach and incorporate, you know, their grades and our
Yes.
faith
Yeah,
families.
absolutely.
And, you know, we do that, you know, where they've got buddies that they're meeting and doing stuff once a month with. And then we've also got our faith families once a month that we could be incorporating. So yeah, it's just 8th grade getting that instruction, but really it's being done school-wide.
and it's possible we'll do an intermediate version of this.
Who are you working with on that?
Your friends out.
Elbow. I got
Yeah, so we'll see.
Yeah. Awesome. That's awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
Yes, thank you.
very
Thank
much.
you.